And welcome to the Activeworlds exploration video by Mr. Joseph. I thought I'd make this video because I was doing some exploring recently on YouTube and I found some old videos of people exploring in Activeworlds. Activeworlds was a virtual world, a sort of online multiplayer, you build it from the ground up. So all of these things you see are things people built. My home location is the city that I used to build in, that I used to kind of run, called Anomia. But I figured I'd just do some random exploration today, just to kind of preserve some of the content of this amazing program. It's no longer amazing. It's obviously pretty dated compared to most games. I mean, it's blocky. The textures are, so many of them are low quality. The object modeling is a little, low polygon. And there's a lot of things that you'll see like this with broken links like these, and textures that are missing and such. But you get an idea, at least, and you're going to see a lot more broken links as we go. There are some things that are still functional, like the SW City group that built one of the best big cities in this world. All of their links are still active, although it's crashing my computer when I click on them, so I'm not going to click on any links today. I think that's an Activeworlds thing, maybe not updating until like Windows 10 or something, I don't know. Anyway, this building here is from 2001 or so. This tree is from 2012. I haven't really built anything since 2012, so almost everything you'll see is at least 5 years old and possibly as old as 16 or 17 years old in the case of this settlement here. It is a little bit, I mean, as I mentioned, broken. A lot of the links are broken, but it's still pretty neat. I'm going to go over here. I'm just going to very briefly start this exploration tour, looking around. And I'm flying, by the way. It's a feature of the program. We've got a football field that somebody built with basically just staircases as seats. It's actually, I think you'd be pretty. It would feel pretty small if you were there in person. And I can maybe zoom out and show you some other views. This is a basketball arena. I think a very well done basketball arena that hasn't aged terribly. As you can see, that's kind of the scale we're talking about. So the scale of this building actually looks fairly reasonable, but I think the football field would feel kind of small, and this is not bad. These are just things that people built in my little town area. Actually, one of the more, and there's a big parking lot there. You understand that these are actually little wall dividers that are just sunk underground, and that's how they simulate parking lot lines with that. But this was kind of one of the newer areas that we were working on towards the end of the run, which kind of tells you how amazing we were doing. But this is supposed to be kind of like a nightlife, I guess, or something. We had this area over here was supposed to be the university. I never spent enough time on some of this stuff, and obviously much of it was left unfinished like this. The green was sort of indicating what kind of building it would be, but this is the enrollment office. As you can see, very, very rudimentary. This was the student union, I guess. So yeah, very, very basic stuff. I was working on something here at one point, and again, this one happens to be from 2002, so you can see just how old it is. And it looks to be some sort of classroom building or something, but I never, for 15, well, maybe 10 years actively, but 15 years now, haven't done anything with it since 2002. So this whole area and this whole experience is kind of just a snapshot in history. This building's a little bit better made, and this appears to be a classroom with actual desks and a big board. This looks like kind of a more modern, you can tell it's more modern, and I use that term very relatively, so this is 2005, by the fact that I used actual thickness in the walls. Little tree with the snow effect on it. Okay, so I think one of the neatest things about the university that we're working on, this, and you have to understand the roads I was trying to do a custom texture on. So if I actually do, well, I'm not going to change it now, but I can modify this to be an actual road texture, but you know, you can kind of see we're actually making a landscape, or attempting a little bit at landscaping here, which is cool. But this building was going to be the Great Library of Anomia, and we were going to use it to store historical things. And I remember how meticulous I was being at lining up all of these columns and arches. Let's see when I did this. This was 2010. And I think a lot of, you know, it looks very basic, and right now, obviously, it's an incomplete build. But, you know, you'd be surprised how much work went into lining things up, because the engine that this thing ran on was very poor. It was very limited. So we would have some sort of design probably with that there. And I think, yeah, I was starting to kind of build this back wall area. I mean, obviously, you'd have this entrance. I was modeling it off of real-life depictions of the Great Library. Here are some designs that I was looking at. The nice thing about Activeworlds is you can just link in web content pretty easily into this virtual world. But you can see I was kind of basing it off, I think especially this one here. I don't know what this is from. But anyway, and then I had a bunch of text here that I was going to integrate. This is something that I think I picked up. This is like a story from, I believe, maybe a museum somewhere in the world or whatever, but I was going to, yeah, and here's the actual AWHS museum. And I actually, maybe we'll start our exploration there, beyond what we've been doing here. And look at that poor quality there. So yeah, I was just kind of basing it off of pictures that I was able to find online, and little ditties like that. Some of the links are broken, obviously. But anyway, that was the Great Library. It was going to be pretty cool, and I wish I had finished it, but I didn't. And you know, that was the case with so many things that I was working on. If I go over here a little ways, the render distance is not particularly impressive either, especially in the modern context, given that we have a lot of high polygon, you know, game worlds out there that render everything just fine for a lot greater distance. The field of view is also terrible. This area over here was where we were building our downtown area, I believe, or, you know, kind of building like a more office building kind of setting. I want to go over here though, because I vaguely remember, yes, I was trying to build a mountain, which was just kind of weird, because why build a mountain in the middle of a relatively non-mountainous area? But I guess it kind of was inspired because I built this thing in a world called Yellowstone. I built this ranger cabin, as it were. So I just replicated it and put it over here. But I'm not sure what this is supposed to be. It's 2009. So, you know, I would build things like this, and then I would hope it would spur development in the area. So let's just take a look at this. And then we're gonna move on, because there's actually another video doing a lot more exploration of Anomia, of the city. Yeah, there was supposed to be like an outhouse here. I think that's why that's there, but it didn't transfer over. Okay. So we would go up here, and yeah, actually this is not terrible for Activeworld standards. There's a statue of a guy, and we go over here. I mean, I've done so much in Minecraft that this feels like a really shitty type of Minecraft. I guess the one advantage that a program like this would have over a program like Minecraft is that Minecraft, literally everything would be blocks, whereas this, it's a little bit more flexibility in shapes and stuff, but it's still there's not as much scripting of objects. You know, the graphics have serious flaws. The engine is seriously flawed compared to the Minecraft engine. But as you can see when you get up here, you know, I guess I'll show you where we came from. Little hole in the ground with the ladder, so, you know, pretty inconvenient way to access one's home. But there's a little kitchen here. Theoretically, there'd be some food in there. Then you got this bed. I think did I make drawers you could pull out? this was supposed to be a desk with drawers that you could pull out, and these objects would move. Ooh, did not mean to do that. Hopefully this doesn't crash my game. Okay, so that did not crash the game. That's good. But these are links to like the actual Yellowstone National Park website. Here's a little painting from somewhere randomly online. Little fireplace with some little gold things. Now, unfortunately, there was an object in the world I transferred this building over from that did not transfer over. So I had these like lifts, and it would cause, when you click on it, a chandelier would drop down to the ground and you could light it, and then it would go back up. That was actually kind of cool. And it kind of looks like this is rotating. So that was I thought that was a pretty good design. Actually, there's a lot of things in this build that I like. You know, there's a little bathroom over here. Don't ask me how the plumbing gets to the ground. There was no thought on that at the time, but I think, yeah, I made a little, you can actually pull the paper towel down, which is cool. And I think you can, yes, you can move that over, which is cool. So that was kind of the limited nature of scripting at the time, was these basic move commands and stuff. But that's just one example, and I think I'm going to try to move on from Anomia at this time. You know, just with the understanding that if anybody wanted to go exploring in this town, you could just go to 13833 South, 6050 East in Alpha World, and just go ahead and walk around and check it out. There's some old stuff and there's some new stuff, and I think you'll get a kick out of it. Actually, you know, while we're here, let's just show you. You know, this was going to be the downtown area. I was working on this water, you know, obviously unfinished like so many other things. This was the Anomia Supreme Court building, which actually was somewhat close to being finished, I think. Marble staircase, a lot of marble, you know. This was the chambers where the judges would sit, but we didn't finish the interior so much. Little gallery for people. I think, yeah, this was going to be a law library. These images were all books, and actually I remember I took an image of books and I actually custom made it into a bookshelf looking thing, but unfortunately that link is broken too. But yeah, that's just an example of what you'll get when you explore. So let's go ahead and randomly, well, not so randomly, we're going to do a teleport to the link where that museum was. Alright, so whoever made this obviously put a little warp to put us up at the eye level, although it appears to be going a little higher than necessary. Listen to that, you got a little MIDI music in the background. Okay, so let's take a look at this museum. So this is by the AWAHS, that is, which is the Activeworlds Historical Society, if I remember correctly. And this is a fairly old place, you know, a fairly ancient place, actually, for internet standards. Some of these objects are from 2002, 1997 even, 2000. So it is that late 90s, early 2000s era, and it's actually not bad for that era. A lot of sprites though, but you know, that was the name of the game back then. So let's just go on in. You got a little staircase here. Pretty conventional, crappy staircase. Conventional, crappy, thin walls. And a little shout out to the people who made this. Okay, so we have some early pictures, I guess. It doesn't look like they're functioning, which is unfortunate. Let's just see what the link would be. awcommunity.org/something or other. Yeah, unfortunately these pictures are not functioning. It would be really cool to see those early pictures from Activeworlds, but this actually is a fairly sophisticated water feature because it has it has like one transparent film over it, and then the actual bottom texture, which is the water. So for Activeworlds, that was not bad. You know, but you know, you'd typically see things like this, little little architectural. See, if somebody could make this, but just updated in a world that had better objects and better frame of view, better engine, I think it would be fantastic. But unfortunately, this is what we've got. Got a little blue light coming from in here. Unfortunately, we don't know what any of these pictures are. But this is such a well-designed little hub, so well-designed little building that if it was made with modern textures and standards, it would be awesome. Huh. Little signs like this really tell the story. It just says that there was an upgrade at one point, so people might not be compatible. I'm going to just go ahead and fly randomly in a direction now. Let's see here. We are trying to figure out, okay, we're at 1500 north, so just trying to figure out which way is going to have the most cool stuff. This thing is weird. It's got a particle effect going on, which is a sign of relative modernity. 2011, so only 6 years ago. And it looks like they were maybe trying to build something. Oh, wow. So this is cool. This is why exploring Activeworlds is still fun, even to this day. You find things like this, and due to the shitty you know, field of view and render distance, you don't necessarily see it until you're right up close. So this is a 2012 era AWHS build. Very well done. Look at these statues. Are pretty awesome. It looks like maybe it's a relatively new object. Very high polygon count for Activeworlds. But it looks like they're going for this weird sort of neo-gothic kind of look, and it looks like it was incomplete at the time, but you can see what they're going for. It's really cool. You got this guy here, which is the Psy, which was the original avatar for all in Activeworlds. And yeah, it looks like they never quite finished this, but that is kind of cool. I didn't know about this building, but it is really cool, and if had it been completed, it would have been really amazing. But let's try to get away and find some older stuff now. Let's go this way. You know, I was referencing earlier that there were some other videos out there that I had seen, such as there's a really interesting one called Vine Sauce. And I guess this guy, this guy goes around and you know, like looks at old games, and this was one that he looked at. And so he randomly went into this world and found this, what he thought was a robot, you know, a bot that was programmed to interact with people who came there, but it turns out it was real. And there's this really creepy exchange that happened, and it was pretty infamous. But that's one of the more prominent Activeworlds exploration videos out there. As you can see, I'm not really seeing anything, so let's teleport. Okay, so I just randomly chose some coordinates here. And we got the Party Tower, Party House, 1997 era, so you know it's going to be crap. And it is. That's all. This is like an advertisement. This was a common thing, I remember. You would find some set of cardinal coordinates, and people would like build little teleports to their build at the popular ordnance coordinates to, you know, advertise for their build, basically. So, okay, so let's go over here. This looks like something. Again, old school. This is going to be 98, so very old stuff. 20 years ago. Got some nice no trespassing signs. Yeah, this was so common at the time. The engine was even worse when this first started, so it was harder to align your components. But we got some Spanish there, 1998. But yeah, so you'd have this Z buffering issue where the objects would collide and their textures would constantly be trying to duke it out. Okay, well this is a coincidence. You know, because I already showed you the football field at my town, but this is a soccer field. Uh, you can see the actual walls protruding up through the ground. Again, that was the workaround people had because they didn't have the ability to draw like 2D textures on 3D textures, but this one was particularly clunky because at the time the ability to move things in a precise way was very limited indeed. This is more modern. Anytime you see these trees, you'll know it's at least 2002 or later, and this happens to be 2007, so only 10 years ago. And we have what appears to be somebody trying to do a suspension bridge. This is cool. You'll see this kind of thing all the time. Scunnerd, 2007, so even more recent than most of my town is. Why somebody was still building here in 2007 and taking it seriously, I'm not sure. I think there's a legitimate basis to have not done that at this point because the program was starting to get pretty outdated by now, but you know, there's a certain nostalgia, so I don't blame anybody for building in this. I'm just trying to follow this more modern thing. I guess it's mostly going to be that bridge. This is obviously old and crappy. You'll see this all the time, this kind of clunky, half-destroyed. This it's all 2007 as well. No way. I wonder if he didn't transfer this in from somewhere else or modify it more recently, because that looks old as crap. But it's his area, and he's still building as of 10 years ago, which again, I know kind of seems modern by standards of this world. But this is such an old program. This is like a archival museum on the internet for early 3D building. And you just walk around, you'll see stuff like this. This is a couch laying on a road, 2003, so also not horribly old for Activeworld standards. And then you got 3 different types of stairs going up above it. You know, just very, very useful stuff. You got this road grid. The road grid was such an important part of building in Activeworlds. It was just, you know, this is somebody named Skeeta. To 1997. Actually, this is a fairly built-up area for 97. You got a little tennis court. You got a little house. It looks like maybe a small town, actually, because these look like... Yeah, well, this is a different citizen. It's a different user. Although the rest of it is all Skeeta, so I guess it's not really a town. It's just his little area, but or his or her area. This is Skeeta's home. You can see really wacky textures, very low quality textures, of course. No cohesion, little gaps in the walls. This was so typical. I'm gonna go down the floor, and no basement, no thickness to the walls as well. When this was first created, it was really almost a two-dimensional thing because all the early objects were not three-dimensional except for these walls here, which did have that depth layer, as you can see. Trespassers will be shot. That's nice, Skeeta. Or actually, this is Schmego. So Skeeter lives next to Schmego. Now, these little guys were the early object teleport things. So you'd see, okay, this is to some various different worlds. I'm not going to go outside of Alpha World, but there are different little towns or worlds that you could travel to, and they had probably marked their specific locations. Little newsstand with no active links, another tennis court. Copying was a big thing. You know, you'd see something that you liked and you'd copy it. This appears to be a swimming pool, although a crappy one. I don't buy it. Yeah, but this is somebody's house. And you got this little off-skew area that was common to have different axes. All objects were created by, you would push insert, and then you drag it over. So, as you can see, I just created this one here, and then you could rotate it, but typically you would just do, you know, you would just do whatever somebody else did before you. So, you know, and you would, I don't know if you can even see what I'm doing here, but you know, so you'd make like a little plot of land like this. And then the typical thing to have done at this point would have been to take a wall object and they were all called .rwx, and that one didn't stay for some reason. For some reason those aren't staying, I'm not sure why. But I could do it with this. I mean, you could just... Oh. I keep using the RS, or ASDW directional commands. So anyway, you'd like make a little wall, then you'd build like a door, you know. I'll just use this. I don't remember all the commands, but I'm distressed that my PP12 wasn't working for some reason. But anyway, so you'd just go along like that, and you'd build and build and build, and you'd make things, and that's just you'd have to line things up. And there was mathematical alignment. The problem was the engine was not precise, so there were little tiny microscopic little slivers between objects that you'd see sometimes. I don't know if we can see any, like this. You see that on the roof? So it wasn't perfect, and frankly, that could be exploited in some cases. This appears to be a person's house. They have a see-through first floor mailbox and then a crappy second floor. That's nice. Shout out to, and you'll see this all the time for early objects, like early 90s objects, not a citizen, because they didn't retain citizenship data after the account expired. So, but they eventually started retaining that data. So, okay, we're gonna keep going. What is this? This appears to be another crappy house with crappy floating objects and a lot of glass. Everybody loved the glass. We all love the glass. This was, this is a good example of something. So this was obviously not a functional building, but as you can see, it has a circular illusion to it. And if I zoom out here, go up in the air, you can see it was basically attempting to do a circle using 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, 16, or well, 12, yeah, 12, there's 12 angles, and frankly, I think what they just did is they pushed rotate one time. So if I, nope, they did it twice. They pushed rotate. They rotated twice. So, and that was, this is about the second most precise curve that was available at this time in 1996. They could have done one more angle in between these two angles, but that's it. So eventually they made a much more precise angling tool, or angling increments, that you could make more precise angles and align things more carefully. But early on they did not, so that's why you see a lot of those problems. Same with lateral movements. That's why so many of these textures overlap. Okay, so if we, and by the way, didn't do a good job explaining this earlier. This is Alpha World. This is the biggest of the virtual worlds. It's 20-something thousand coordinates on each side, so it ends up being like, you know, 45,000 times 45,000 square kilometers in virtual. Whoa, that's fucked up. That would have to be using yeah, so that's 2012. And this guy just made a flying room for no reason, using a move command that came about much later than that original thing that's moving was based on. So he just screwing around, you know, playing around. Probably took this, copied it, and made it fly. Get a little MIDI music coming in the background, always fun. There we go. Closer you get to it, the louder it gets. And you got like these pictures of goats and hamsters. 1999. I'm surprised this website still functions. Little teleport area that was common. Sometimes people would embed these sounds into the floors or the roads or into a tree. Oh, here we go. It's up pop. 1.1.mid. Ducky's home under construction 1996. So that's where we're getting that MIDI. That's built into the program. It's not from the web. You can do a web sound as well, but if you just do the .mid extension, it'll just take the program file that's associated with that. This is a tunnel that would have to have been, I don't know, it's relatively old, 1998. But again, you just see how many different users there are, and different, even if they didn't retain the username, they still had a user number, 92388. Theoretically, that means it was the 92nd thousandth person to use this program, and this was much later, 322227. My number, by the way, is 302624. So I was probably from the same era originally that this person was. They built a nice little glass house in the sky. And yeah, I'm really tempted. I just don't know when to stop moving around. I want to kind of maybe make my way towards ground zero, which is the focal point of the entire world. So let's go this way. Yeah, this will get us to ground zero eventually. So really, it's not letting me fly very fast. But I just kind of want to see what we can stumble across randomly. There's a big fence here. 1998. Okay. These glass buildings were very common. But anyway, going back to my discussion of Alpha World, this world that we're in, it's one of maybe several hundred worlds that the company created for people to play around in. This was the main public one that you didn't have to buy or anything. And it was very basic, but it was very, very popular and very heavily populated for a long time. It also was a world that, going back to the size, was, I think people said that roughly the same square footage as the state of California is in real life. So you can get an idea of the scale of this virtual world. So there is a ton of content, and we are just in the under 2,000 coordinate area. But again, I think I told you it goes like 26,000. So, and a lot of the newer stuff is out in the middle of nowhere. There used to be a map. Unfortunately, the map is no longer maintained. So that is one aspect of this that we've lost. But you can kind of get a feel for it anyway. There's our online archival maps. You can kind of see what a fixed point in time map would look like. There's no interactive map, is what I mean, anymore. Okay, so I'm just kind of going through here and seeing what I can find. I am usually pretty good at recognizing the difference between old and new builds based on objects, based on building techniques, and based on conventions in the culture of the program at the time. So yeah, these are all really freaking old. 1999. There's a certain creepiness to this program as well, and you can kind of get that. Obviously my hearing those sounds, I'm a little set off about it. Follow the MIDI. No idea what this song is, but it's very weird and creepy and old. Makes you feel alone, doesn't it? But you can imagine somebody 20 years ago building something, their own creation. This is the first time you were able to do this in a way that interacted with other people. You had your house, your friend had his house over there. You'd build things together. You'd make your own world, your own city, your own life online. This is a public pool. Okay, but that little creepy. It would be even creepier if it was not so bright and sunny out all the time in Alpha World. You got these floating torches. For some reason, these seem to be floating everywhere close to Ground Zero. So, Ground Zero, of course, was the starting point of this world. So anybody that built would have especially at first, would have had to have dragged their piece, their object, all the way from wherever they found one. So nobody was building at 26,000 initially. They were building at 0, 0, and 100, 0, and 110, 10, 15. They're building very close to the ground zero because that's where the initial object was. So it created this pattern of growth that was radiated out from that central point. And you can see that in maps. Jaguar Han, I remember him. He was big in AWT. This is 2005. That's relatively recent. Just built a little festive little Christmas tree area. That's cool, I guess. Just randomly in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a bunch of junk. Here's a posable remote site number 1 for... Oh, Shipbow, I remember him. He was, he actually built in my town. That's cool. Well, it's an interesting coincidence, I should say. Cool might be overstating it slightly. A lot of these pyramid houses, you would see, they would build... The shapes just lent themselves to building pyramids and cubes and stuff, so you'd see a lot of that. Oh, wow. That's creepy. So this is a junkyard, one of many that we would see. So you got this guy who... Basically what happened, I can tell you exactly what happened. So you had somebody build this land here, the lady, I guess, and then somebody came along and put WWTV was here, and then somebody put leave a message. Actually, the person who built this land put leave a message. So people started putting messages, and there's a bunch of different ones here. And then people would copy that, and then somebody came along and built this one, Chris Cat, it looks like. And then somebody came along and duplicated it and rotated it in different ways. And this big one is the biggest one, 2012. It's like expanding. So the more features and the more off kilter it was, the more modern technique it was. I could make a sign if I wanted to. Created during, let's do during exploration video for nostalgia. Okay. So now we've left a little piece of history there. But I'm going to keep moving towards ground zero. And frankly, the closer we get, the more stuff like this we're going to see, the more, multi-user creations and things. And it's interesting to see we're within about 200 coordinates of ground zero. There's still open land that I could build stuff in, which is kind of surprising. But I guess that phenomenon will quickly evaporate because ground zero became, real estate speaking, as far as, land goes, one of the most heavily contested areas for claiming land, as you would imagine it would. So we would get closer and closer and closer, and less land would be available. And the older, typically, you would find these buildings. 1995 is freaking old. December of 95. I believe this world opened in the summer of 95. So this is just a few months into it. This is a little bit later than that, but not much. Another creepy MIDI. I always like finding them and figuring out how people were using the sounds, because it's really creepy that the original sounds from the 1995 era program are still making noise to this day. I mean, it's like somebody winding a clock and the clock is still running, This one is just very mystical. I bet it's this. Usually if people are... Nope, I was going to say usually people are very conventional and they put it in a speaker, but that's not it. I could tell because the the sound strength dropped off dramatically. Maybe it's one of these flames. You never know which object is creating the sound. Somebody left their email address. UNI in Melbourne, University of Melbourne. So somebody in the psych department at the University of Melbourne left their email address here 20 years ago. I wonder if you sent them an email, what would happen? It's like a message in a bottle almost. 20 years later, answered. Here's some advertising. This was common. You'd get these like pictures. bmath.net/adobe/ecaves. And then it would teleport you to their cave build. Looks kind of crappy, but who knows? Preacha, 2007. I guess it's kind of modern, so 10 years ago being modern in this world. These particle effects are also modern. Movement effects are modern. So as we get close, you'll see these crazy movement effects. People just trying to distinguish themselves and make a mark. These floating people. 2016. That is recent. That is just 7 or 8 months ago. All these people. But as you can see, what happened here is somebody built. Boy, that's annoying. Somebody built like a little thing with a sign probably, and then it just kind of radiated out from here. So people would leave little signs, and the signs took up so little space that you could really squeeze them in. Some from 2002, some 97. Sir Cruz is a friend of mine, by the way. He built a great city called Horizon City. Oh, and here's my town. So I've advertised here. Look at that. That's so cool. But everybody who wanted anybody to find their creation would come to these little hubs. and this is a very meta sign there, but you know, they'd leave their little mark. They'd leave an advertisement for people to come visit. The hopes that people would build in your town eventually and be part of a creation that mostly just brought people glory. There was no monetization of it at all. Alright, so we're going to move on. We're within 100 coordinates. Now, the reason that place is popular is because it happens to be 100, 100. It's 100 north, 100 east. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's move on. Southeast. Little techno MIDI going on there as well. Now we're gonna get in some really crazy shit. This is old as fuck. November 95, December 95, very within just a couple months of the program being launched. This is gonna be modern, I can tell. 2005. Relatively modern. You can tell because it's nicer. Nice geometric pattern. It looks like a movie. Yeah. I always wonder what the movie they're showing here is. None. There's nothing linked to it. It's just a movie screen. There's no actual movie. The thunderstorm sound there. That's cool. You would see things like this too. Little floating advertisements or little things like that. And now we are just dramatically. Can I turn up my vision? I thought I had turned my vision way up, but oh, it's only at 60. Let me turn it to 200. I remember when we would play this, 200 meters would be like forever. Now it's going to just seem at best, you know, average, if not below average for modern standards. Okay, so this is really the Ground Zero town that we're in now, this, if you want to think of it that way. This is the area around Ground Zero that was just super busy and populated. Even still, there's still little nooks and crannies you could squeeze a sign into. They would occasionally go around and clean up little places. This is called Northside Village. Pretty cool. Actually, I remember some of this because there was a concerted effort by some people to like clean up Ground Zero and make those old crappy builds into new modern builds. I remember this one. This is High Flyer, yes, I remember this. This was his little campfire. It's like an old westy kind of place, and then there's going to be like a gas station over here somewhere by, I think, Syntax. Eggplant was 2005. So what you would do is, like, there were these people that created this, and you would apply to build there. Oh, this is pretty cool. This is a very reminiscent style of my own building. And yeah, this is pretty modern. This is 2005. Where's that gas station? I remember it. Yeah, all these ones around here are going to be relatively new. 2005. This one's old. 1995 October. That's the earliest one we've seen so far. 2005. Oh, this is SW Chris. Now, he does great YouTube content now, and he does mostly Minecraft and some other games. But this was a little homage to his city, his and his friend's city, SW City. And this little newsstand, little mango shop, and I remember that too. Gosh, this is bringing back a lot of memories. Here's a cute little... No, we haven't been here yet, have we? That's High Flyer as well, but it's different. It's Monkey again. Monkey's builds remind me a lot of my own builds, to be honest. So yeah, okay, that's 2000. That's older, but it's still pretty cool. Okay, so oh, here's the gas station that I was thinking of. This is Net Guy now, but it used to be called Syntax. It's a little gas station. I distinctly remember that. I also distinctly remember that I was building something over here at one point. Little story. 1999. You'd see that kind of stuff too a lot. Most of this is complete garbage, but boy, I remember I had like a, I want to say like, I was calling it like an embassy or something over here somewhere, where I was trying to build like an Activeworlds embassy to get people to come to my city, and gosh, where is it? I'm never going to be able to find it, but you gotta love these middies. This is up in the air, so that took up all the land space around here. Some people put objects below the ground to prevent people from building on it. Gosh, that Northside Village thing, though, reminded me so much, and I had built something. I know I had built a few things in this general area, but I just can't remember where they went. Okay, but let's continue. Let's go over to the actual ground zero. We're now due north of ground zero. That's fairly modern. Paradown. He actually built in my town. He's an old school guy. Okay, so here's the actual ground zero coming into well, nope, that's still, this is the High Flyer area. There's a lot of these like monuments, like to people who died and stuff. It's kind of sad, actually. There was like a couple of big 9/11 monuments as well. Peacekeepers were an organization to kind of keep the peace, obviously. So this was their old school original headquarters from 1998. Here's the old ground zero. Now they ended up creating a new ground zero, which is nicer, but this is the old ground zero. And as you can see, it's kind of defunct. It's kind of sad. This is 00. Still have the occasional advertisement. And these teleports were historic. They were always there. But even just within a few meters of ground zero, you have this advertising and garbage. People would try to clean it up from time to time, but obviously that process stopped at some point. People lost interest. There wasn't enough population around to care anymore, I guess. Duskbat 2000, I remember that little tower. Duskbat was a peacekeeper. Little teleport row. I'm trying to find, there's one little thing that I built that I'm trying to find. It's like within just a few blocks of, not blocks, but within a few coordinates of the ground zero area. So somewhere in this like area here maybe. And it's, oh yeah, I found it. It's a little thing you click on something and it teleports you to ground zero. It's kind of stupid. It's this little guy right here. I just plopped this in a little area that was free, and I have a little teleport to my town here. And then I put this thing in, then you just click on this, and it teleports you up into the sky, and I believe it shoots a little object up with you. Yeah, it teleports that object up, and theoretically you were supposed to warp up at the same speed, but as you can see, I'm just barely creeping along here. And I'm not sure if I'm going to make it there. So you're supposed to end up on this, and it's supposed to be like a viewing platform for ground zero, which is right there. So that was one of my very few things that was in the neighborhood of ground zero. There's another one too, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. But anyway, this is ground zero. It's crazy. It's cool. There's some neat stuff, but it's mostly old as fuck. 96. August of 95, that's probably the earliest object we've seen so far. These trees are August of 95. This is much newer than the land around it. So, to finish out the video, I'm just going to do a random teleport. We're going to do 4,000 south, 8,000 east. Oops, that's 400 south. Alright, let's see what that gives us. Okay, so we actually did get something. Usually if you do like a fairly prominent hamster dance town, oh boy. I'm not optimistic. This isn't by Hamfon, is it? No. Chocolate Cake. This is built in 2000. So this was like a town, it looks like, or somebody was trying to make a town. Obviously they didn't get very far. There's a burger palace. Okay, let's go in and see the burger palace. They got ice cream. They got a crappy women's restroom with a TV screen door. They got a crappy men's restroom with a TV screen door. They got torches. They got buckets. They got Coke machine. They got iced tea. They got 1 table for the customers. 2 tables. 5 tables. Spaced out awkwardly. Okay. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that is Hamster Dance Town. Let's try another one. To do. Let's try 13,000 south, 13,000 west. And we have a giant flashy color thing from 1997. That's early. I'm surprised they were able to get this far away from ground zero this early. Eventually people started creating bots that were able to seed in objects, you know, out to the middle of nowhere like this, but not seeing anything too exciting there, so let's try 15,000 north, 2,000, actually let's do 0 east. So for one thing, there's usually a pretty consistent road going straight down that people made. And actually we're going to see some old stuff here because people usually gravitate out in the cardinal directions like spokes on a wheel. So, City of Dreams. Alright. Cottage Grove, let's try it. Well, 1998, 2001. Let's try the 2001. Okay, welcome to City of Dreams. We've got American and Canadian flags. We've got a very off-putting color scheme for their signs. Flashy teleport things that are obnoxious. And somehow I landed on one. Yeah, I landed on that one accidentally. Build your home here today. Well, probably not. I don't think I'd want to live here. Le village hedgehog est fier. Obviously, I don't know how to pronounce that. You got these light effects, though. The lights were a command. You just type create light, and it would create a default white light. You could also make it any color. Yellow was common. Red, blue, green, whatever. Chinese food place, okay. So we have what appears to be a tunnel going under this building that I cannot even fit through with my head, barely. Oh, we've got the World Trade Center. That's nice. Doesn't look like the World Trade Center, but who am I? Who am I to judge? 9/11 is coming up after all. And there's nothing inside. That's nice. Okay. Let me go back to the Chinese food restaurant. Okay, so here we are inside. I teleported through the wall. Nice little bench. I like that. That's 2001. Very nice. Actually, just as I suspected, 13 days after September 11th is when this restaurant was built, which means that, and you'll see this all the time, world events affecting building, September 17th, 6 days after 9/11 they built this. This is maybe some sort of homage to the World Trade Center or something, you know, some sort of like I'm with you guys kind of feel. Maybe they're going to build a skyscraper, but they didn't. I also think I remember seeing a what was supposed to be model World Trade Center, like a scale model one by somebody. I can't remember where that was. But yeah, this is a crap town. Let's go to a new one. Not going to do much more. I'm just going to do a few more. 700 north, 700 east. Okay, right in the middle of a... I was worried about that. Okay. Let's try 7,000 north, 7,000 east. This is the diagonal road, so this will be a fairly old, well-trod out location. And we got some signs and spammage. Very nice. Wow, what a bunch of crap. This looks like a very busy area, though. What is this, like a little torch row, or like a grave site? 2004. What is this? Alright. Well, I may turn my viewer down before I teleported. I don't even know what that means, but this is supposedly an adult club. Wow. Huh. Art. Okay. Peep shows, 25 cents. How classy. Peep here. I don't even know what that means. Here's just the box. I guess it has a link to it. I'm curious what that link is. For the sake of this YouTube video, I'm going to do that off screen, but I'm very curious if that's still active. And that website appears to be dead. Well, the underlying website's alive, but that page is not available. My suspicion is somebody used their own website to create some naughty images. Although this one's still up, so, you know, good on them for maintaining that. Exotic dancers. Here to download. Okay, let me take a look at this web link and see if it's anything. No, that is definitely a defunct link. But here's the VIP club. God, I would go crazy if I were in a club like this. What a terrible club. Well, thanks for that. Where am I even? I'm at 69. Okay, whatever. 78. I don't even know. Obviously, I'm getting tired, so I'm going to finish this video up. Let's go in here. Okay. Well, looks like somebody's building a wall and just kind of stopped building after that. You'll see a lot of that. Circular river, circular road. Circular roads were cool up today. You know what I'm going to do, actually, to finish up? I know what I'm going to do. I distinctly remember that I built a trail of breadcrumbs back to a house of mine. I think it was this way, if I remember correctly. This house is always cool. This is a guy named Blur. He just put so much content in this house, I remember. Like this guy walking, you got the radios blaring, you got the spilled coffee, you got this weird lamp and the lady at the table and spinning clocks. You know, for its era, this is a fairly involved piece of property and certainly saturated. But I remember there's that thing that I clicked on earlier, and then if I remember correctly, you go this way. Oh, I can't believe I remember this. You got these little messages. You've even got a Bush-Cheney 2000 sign. That's crazy. Wow. It must have been right before the election. Oh, and we got some Anomia. Oh, here we go. This is my trail of breadcrumbs. Okay, so this is CJ, which is short for Commander Joseph, which was my original name. Now it's just Joseph, as you can see here. I don't know if you can see that actually, but so I left this trail of breadcrumbs, and you'll see like all these advertisements along the way. All old, for the most part. I haven't seen anything very recent or very modern in this area, but Doug's Place, Egyptian Kingdom. I bet you Egyptian Kingdom's terrible. Let's take a look. We'll simply teleport back to resume. This was the warp command as opposed to the teleport command. The teleport command was instantaneous. The warp command actually made you physically travel. And I don't know what happened. I guess this is the Egyptian city. MGM. This looks like Las Vegas. It's supposed to be a Las Vegas recreation? Is that a plane? That's a plane, I guess. There's the monorail, I guess. And this is New York, New York, I'm guessing. Yeah, this is going to be Las Vegas, so this is going to be the Luxor. Yep, there it is. I don't know if you've been to Las Vegas, but this is so... I mean, this is a good, you know, solid attempt to recreate Vegas, because it does have recognizable things like this building here, the Luxor. But it's not the Egyptian city, and yeah, and this is MGM. Yeah, and so the strip is like down this way. So this is New York, New York. There's a hotel there, hotel casino. And this is Golden Gate Bridge. And then you got your, what's going to be next? Like the Bellagio over on the left, probably. Alright, I think that's going to be the Bellagio. All of the signs are out, so you can't really tell. And then Caesar's Palace would be next to that. Bailey's, I guess. This is going to be the Golden Nugget, I believe, here. And the Flamingo right behind it. Not very recognizable with these textures, of course, but I thought this was supposed to be Paris. It's like supposed to be an Eiffel Tower there. Guess they didn't get around to it. Caesar's Palace over here, and then you got the Mirage. By the way, this is probably Las Vegas from a certain time, yeah, to 1996. So this was going to be a little bit older rendition of some of the sites. There's not, I don't know if the Wynn was built yet. Desert Inn, so yeah, I don't know. I think none of the stuff down here is going to be up here. So I mean, cool, but not very good. I mean, it's good for that era. I shifted around. I think I got teleported to Las Vegas there. But this is Creole Village. I don't understand how that's Creole in the slightest. And here's the I presume this is the Egyptian area that we're talking about. Yeah, I'm not terribly blown away. Again, I'm sure it's old as fuck. Yeah, 1997. But, you know, people were doing things like this, trying to build their own little ideas. Let's go back. Okay, so continuing down the road. And my signs were this bright orange color, you can see. I was here signs. Newsstands. Newsstands took up very little space as well, so you could squeeze them into little gaps that were not, that you couldn't put most objects in. These are old pictures, it looks like. Cool. 1996, November, old. But I remember you'd have to go all the way down here, then you'd have to turn. So what I'm doing, what I'm looking for is, I built a house near Ground Zero at one point, and I basically didn't even think about it. I just kind of looked for a space, and I built it. Well, then I thought, well, maybe I should create a little trail so I could always find it from Ground Zero. So I did. These are going to be newer. Yeah, 2005. That's Ship Out. That's somebody who's built in my town. So, gosh, I'm a little bit lost. But I think I would have put a sign somewhere here if I turned. So I think I have to keep going. Yep, here we go. Oh, and here's some really cool ads. So, Sea Guy City. 2004. Kind of want to check that out. Okay, this sucks. This is a terrible thing. That's just creepy. That's just creepy. That is just a giant head spinning. Wow. That is freaky. And then you got these people dancing. Okay, presumably this is going to be Sea Guy right over here. That's nice. That's adorable. And he actually did his own maps, which is cool. You know, that is to say he hosted them on his own website. They look to be maps created through some bots. Oh, this is actually a mirror, which is cool. It's quite a bit off. I mean, it's not an actual mirror. It's a camera and TV, and the camera appears to be down. I don't even know. It's a bit off. I mean, they were trying. God bless them, but well, okay. Good on Sea Guy for that's. What the hell? What is that? What is going on? That is that's pretty racy, Sea Guy. Come on. I don't mind. Whatever. Is that his coat of arms? Well, so the Welsh flag. Okay. So, yeah, creepy town, Sea Guy. Really creepy. And, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna go back. So yeah, so there's some advertising, including from my own city. And I think we have to go this way. Yes, okay, so we have these little... And you can see how this would have been fun back in the day. Because you could put these little links and they click around, you get people to come, you get people to visit and so forth. Just checking out Shipow's teleport area. It's got little links to all of his old stuff. I should have done something like that. I think I did try to do something like this at one point in mine, but Shippo is always pretty good at building. But anyway, so it's a cool little area. And I'm sure that he or she, I think it's a he, but I don't know, built all this stuff, and it's really cool. It's like a manufacturing plant. That's cool. Oh, that's really neat. Those things move periodically. Look at that. This is a chess piece manufacturing. This is actually really cool. Notwithstanding the poor textures, but yeah. So this was just one object moving, and then when it got to a certain point, it actually teleports back to this point, and a new object teleports in. So it just creates the illusion of constant movement. This is really well done. Yeah, because these three meet up there, and then they start moving that way. So that's three separate objects moving into position. Then they change to a repeating object of three. This is really well done, except there's no way to account for it on the conveyor belts, but that would have taken a lot of work. So Shipwell was very gifted, as were many builders. I mean, obviously the textures and everything still make it look dated, but I mean, it's pretty cool. Lava. That is actually really well done. He even puts a little tilt in there so it tips over when it falls, and then it comes in here. I guess it just ends its journey there, but you know, really well done. Really cool stuff. There's a train. He was really into this for a while, in 2004, 2005. But alas, like so many others, he disappeared off the face of the planet just like I did. Let's continue. Let's finish this up before I fall asleep. It's a big building. Sir Q's, that's a friend of mine, the Horizon City builder guy. Southern Lands. Confuses me. I think I turn here, though. I really do. I feel like I have to turn here. If my memory is correct, I needed to have turned there. No. Maybe. Boy, that's relatively new. That's 2011. That's cool. Oh, yes. No, this is right. This road, and then you have to... I don't do a very good job of signage here, but I think you go this way. Well, no, that's not right. Somehow you end up over here? Maybe? No, I think I made a wrong turn. I think I should go back. Okay, well, it's no problem. Wow, look at all this old stuff. Okay. So we were right over here. There's a random object, 2005. Oh god. That is old. It's 22 years old, that object. And internet time, that is forever. Okay, so I was right over here, right? And I was continuing this way. And then I get to here. Boy, I did not do a good job with science at this point, did I? Have I lost the trail? What if I went back to the last teleport? No, this is, where the hell am I? I'm so lost. Oh, okay, I think I know where I am. Yeah, there's that new building's there. Okay, so I think I'm actually fairly close. Because I think it goes over here somewhere. You know what, though? Let me just be on the safe side. You know what? I'm gonna have to go back. Okay, so we'll go back to 0 north, 0 east, and we'll just simply head south again. It won't take me long to get back to where I was, because it wasn't that far. So this is the road heading south, and it's going to go this way for a while, and there's all the advertisements, and it's going to eventually turn right. It's going to kind of shortcut it here. And then once it turns right up here, well, it's still going, I guess. I think it turns right up here. That's where See Guy's sign was. I distinctly remember these weird pyramid things. October of '93, very old. There's Shipow's color thing. And here is the intersection where it turns right. There's See Guy. Turn right and go west 0.53k. So I'm at 1 east. I need to go to about 53. There's Shipow's teleport sign. And the sign says keep going. Actually, it says the Southernlands, keep going straight ahead. Alright, so we are approaching 53 and detour. CJ's house, turn left. Okay. 95. Okay, now I'm back on the trail. Lost it, but I'm back on. So this will take us to about 300. Southern Province is straight ahead. I wonder who made these. Take in 2000. Okay, whatever. That's 2005. I was in college at this time. Russians planning to attack Earth 2014. That's cool. CJ's house. Okay, keep going. Okay, so I go left. Like so. And there's going to be some debris in the road up here. Yes, I remember this. Oops. So there's a bunch of debris in the road, but you just keep going. And then you have to go up and over this. So you have to go up here. And then you're supposed to go over this wall. I guess was the Great Wall of Amy. So this is also to the southern provinces, but then I had an advertisement for my old city, but the link is broken. We had a little bit of a dispute with somebody because I put a sign up and then they put a sign covering my sign, and then I put a sign covering their sign and so forth, and it looks like their signs are all gone, but they had some neat little places here too, whoever this was. Lyrical Miracle JLB. Cute little place here, relatively updated. You know, this is going to be like, yeah, 2016. That's recent. That's crazy. Although that's not very impressive inside. But anyway, this was going to lead around, and you know, there's a bunch of things you could look at over here, and you wouldn't think anything of it, but eventually, if you turn right here, you would come across my lands, which are all here. And here's like a hexadecimal color palette that I could use to find colors that I wanted in hex. The texture yard that I had, these were all textures. Now a lot of them are defunct, as you can see. And this was just some random person's house. Night, I remember that. And I remember one of my favorite builders in the world, Laura, right here, built this. one of her earliest creations. She was one of the best builders, but this was like her early work, and it's just crap. But even then, she was trying, did a great job innovating and creating curved paths and flowers everywhere and stuff. But she became one of the best builders in AW. This was kind of a museum that I was building. There's a law firm that I built over there. This house was my first house in this world, so it's February 2001, it looks like. This is kind of my lab. I played around with things in here and figured out how they'd work, like a dance floor. I had a kitchen, a library, bedroom, trampoline, pool, sleeping quarters with a leopard print bed. I was trying to restore this building, so I'm like did some like stuff to, because this was just some random building that was next to mine. So December of '95. So I basically just moved in some things to make it look a little bit nicer, but there's no saving that. Yeah, so this is all mine over here. This is some dome experimentation I was doing. This is a pathway that led to this building here, which was like a law firm prototype because I'm a lawyer. And so this is kind of the law firm. This is nice, but it's unrealistically big. Little workstations and stuff. Little pond. And actually, my path continues here. Here is a place I was experimenting with windmills here, as you can see, which is cool. 2007. This was a dorm room layout that I created so I could figure out how I was going to lay out my dorm room. Huh, I even put the room number. That's crazy. It wasn't quite the scale, but it was the idea that counts. Oh, if my dorm room had only been this big. Yeah, but I used this program to try to lay out my dorm room. Little experiment with lake design. I have this slowly moving up and down so you can see the rocks becoming more exposed. It appears to be rotating as well. Same thing here, little water experiments, little roofing experiments. This is some Danish guy. It's a Danish flag. But I also remember I built this area next to my house, kind of back behind my house, where I would store furniture ideas. Yeah, here it is. This little area by this wall. It's not the pyramid, but this is all mine here. And I was like doing furniture and glass designs and things. Gates. This is all mine here. And then we'd have like, I don't know, just kitchens or bathrooms and living room, plants. I would experiment with plants. And this was a bedroom design. Yeah, I mean, I was just always doing stuff like that. This is like a creative way to create a alternative model of a person because they didn't really have models of people early on. Trees. I had tree research back here, different leaf types and stuff, little sprites of leaves and stuff. So it was cool. But anyway, that eyeball from, looks like almost from Mario 64. But anyway, this was my little area, my little lab, and it's defunct, sadly. Well, if you stuck around this long, good on you. I'm a little surprised, but I'm going to finish this video and end it. A little nostalgia from Activeworlds, a little random exploration, cool stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye.